Video 1. Starting a project. Before beginning any project, it's essential to start by understanding the structure and organization of the data. In this workshop, we're using a simple example to keep things efficient. 5 Google reviews, each saved in its own Word document. These files are stored in a Windows folder titled Google Reviews and are named according to the person who wrote each review, making it easy to identify and reference them throughout the session. Let's begin by opening the first document titled Quinn. This will launch Microsoft Word and display the contents of the review. The text is straightforward. For example, it starts with, double-check the best before dates on any ready-made foods before purchasing, and continues from there. In this case, there's also a response from the store owner, which is something you'll occasionally see in Google reviews. This will become important later when we begin setting up the case classifications in NVivo. In our analysis, each reviewer will be treated as an individual case. One factor we may want to explore is whether there's any meaningful difference between reviews that received a response from the business owner and those that didn't. So as we review the data, it's helpful to note which reviews include an owner response. Let's go ahead and close the document and open NVivo from the taskbar on the bottom of the screen. If it's not pinned there, we can click the search menu icon located at the bottom left corner and type NVivo to find it. Once we open the program, it may take a moment to load. While that's happening, just a quick note. If you have the option to use either a Mac or a Windows computer, we recommend choosing Windows. NVivo offers its full range of features on Windows, while the Mac version is missing a few advanced functions like compound and group queries and framework matrices. You'll find a link in the handout, which is included in the video description that outlines those differences. That said, Mac users will still be able to do most of what they need. Now that NVivo is open, again, this is the Windows version, we'll start on the Welcome screen. On the left-hand side, there's a list of any recent projects we've worked on. Keep in mind, this list is specific to the computer we're using. So even if our project files are stored in something like OneDrive and accessible from other computers, only projects opened on this specific device will show up here. That said, if we were to log into another Windows computer and access our OneDrive files, we could still open and work on the project. The list of recent projects just wouldn't appear. Today we're going to start fresh by creating a new project. To do that, we'll click on the New Project button. It's a large rectangular button located near the top left corner of the screen. Just beneath that, you'll notice a blue Login button under the Account section. While it's often a source of confusion, this section relates to optional add-on features that aren't included in the university's NVivo license. These include tools like Collaboration Cloud, which allows research teams to co-edit a project, similar to how you might co-edit in Microsoft Word Online or Google Docs, as well as a transcription service for audio and video. Since these features aren't available through our institutional subscription, we won't be using this section at all. Creating a new project. Once we click the New Project button, a dialog box appears where we'll enter some basic project information. At the top, there are 3 fields. Project title. This is the name that will appear within NVivo. File name. This is how the file will be saved on our computer. And description, an optional field where we can add details about the project for future reference. Below that, there's a checkbox labeled Keep a Log of User Actions. This is unchecked by default. If selected, NVivo will keep a record of actions taken during the project, helpful if you want an audit trail of what's been done. Under the checkbox, there's a line of text explaining that we can choose a text content language. This helps NVivo recognize and analyze the language used in our data. By default, it's set to English US. We can leave this as it is for now. Let's go ahead and give our project a title. We'll call this one Grocery Store. Just below the project title field, you'll see a Browse button. This allows us to change the location where the project file will be saved. We recommend saving it in the same folder as your data to help keep everything organized and easy to access. Next, we can enter an optional description for the project, then click Next in the lower right corner. The next dialog box we're presented with is divided into 2 sections, Project Saving and Project Recovery. First, let's explore the project saving settings. The autosave option is set to no by default. If we select yes, NVivo will automatically save the project after every change. However, it's important to note that each save clears the undo history, meaning we won't be able to undo recent actions once they've been saved. In addition to autosave, we can enable save reminders, which prompts us to save manually at regular intervals, for example, every 15 minutes. This interval can be adjusted based on our preference. The next section is project recovery. In this section, we can customize how NVivo creates recovery backups of our project. By default, it saves a backup every 30 minutes, but we can change that interval to suit our needs. We also have the option to store multiple recovery files, not just one. This gives us several backup points to return to if something goes wrong. At the bottom of this section, we can also choose a different location on our computer to store these recovery files. For now, we'll leave all of these settings at their default values. Then we'll click the Create Project button located at the bottom right corner of the dialog box to continue. Once we create our project, we're brought into the main NVivo workspace. You'll notice the project name near the top left corner of the screen. NVivo project files are saved with the extension .nvp on Windows or .nvpx on Mac. That's just the format NVivo uses when saving our work. At the top of the screen is the ribbon toolbar, which contains tabs like Import, Create, Explore, and others. These organize the main tools we'll use throughout the project, similar to Microsoft Office applications. On the left-hand side, we see the navigation view. This is the blue panel where we access all parts of our project: files, coding, cases, notes, queries, and more. We'll refer to this panel several times during the workshop. You can think of it like Windows Explorer or Finder on a Mac. It's how we move around our project. Currently, Files is the option selected in the navigation view on the left-hand side of the screen. That opens up the Files workspace in the main area of the screen. Right now, you'll see that nothing has been imported yet. To bring in our review data, we'll go to the Import tab in the ribbon at the top of the screen, then click Files. You'll also notice other import options here, including surveys, NCapture files, social media data, and more. We won't use those just yet, but it's good to know they're available, especially if you're working with different types of data later on. Before we import anything, let's take a moment to set up some folders to keep things organized. In the navigation view on the left, we're currently in the Files section. Today we'll be working with Google reviews, but later in the workshop, we'll also import focus group transcripts and survey data. Rather than putting everything into one place, it's helpful to create a few separate folders, especially when working with multiple data sources. To do this, we'll right-click on Files in the navigation view and choose New Folder. In the dialog box that appears, we'll type Google Reviews and click OK. Now we'll see a new subfolder called Google Reviews listed under Files. Let's click on that folder to open it. In the main workspace area, NVivo may display a short help message with tips about using this view. We can close that message by clicking the Close button at the bottom of the window. Once that's gone, we're looking at an empty space. This is where our imported files will appear. Now we're ready to import our data. We'll go to the Import tab in the ribbon at the top of the screen and click on the Files button. This opens a file browser window. From here, we'll navigate to the folder where our Google reviews are saved. Desktop, Intro to NVivo Part 1, Google Reviews. Inside that folder, we'll select all the review files. The easiest way to do this is by clicking the first file, then holding down the Shift key and clicking the last file. This selects everything in between. Then we'll click Open, located at the bottom right corner of the window. Next, the Import Files dialog box appears. This is where we confirm the list of files we're importing. There's also a checkbox labeled Create a case for each imported file. We'll leave that unchecked for now, since we'll talk about cases later. Once everything looks correct, we'll click the Import button in the bottom right corner to bring the files into our project. Now that our files are imported, we can see them listed in the main workspace area. This is called the List view. Each row represents one of our imported Google reviews. Right now, no codes have been assigned, but we can see details like the file name and the last modified date. Let's now activate another part of the interface called the Details view. This is where we'll interact directly with the contents of our files. To open a file, we'll double-click on one. Let's choose the review from Quinn since we looked at that one earlier. Double-clicking opens a new panel beside List View showing the full content of that review. In this view, we can see the review text as well as the business owner's response. If we need to make any changes, like correcting a typo or adding a note, we can do that by clicking the Edit checkbox at the top of this Details panel. This unlocks basic editing tools similar to Microsoft Word. When we're finished, we simply deselect the Edit checkbox to exit editing mode. To make the text easier to read, we can use the magnification slider in the bottom right corner of the screen. This lets us zoom in or out on the text in the Details view. If we double-click on another review, NVivo opens it in a new tab within the Details view. This allows us to toggle between multiple files without closing the others. Each tab includes the title of the file, and to the right of the title, you'll see a small X located directly on the tab itself. Clicking that will close the file from view. So at this point, we've successfully imported our data into an organized folder, and we've seen how to open and explore individual files using the Details view. In the next part of the workshop, we'll start working more actively with our data. We'll cover how to create and apply codes, how to set up cases and case classifications, and how to use notes and queries to start analyzing patterns and themes. When you're ready, go ahead and continue to the next video.